And 7 lessons of enlightenment to overcome anxiety forever. In a world where the mind is constantly pulled in every direction, towards worries, ambitions, regrets, comparisons, expectations, anxiety has become one of the most persistent internal battles of our time. We fear what has not yet happened, we regret what has already passed, and we lose ourselves in the whirlwind of thoughts that never seem to quiet. But deep within the ancient teachings of wisdom, traditions lies a path, a subtle, radiant way, that can dissolve the roots of anxiety, not by force, but by understanding. This is the path of enlightenment. Enlightenment is not some distant or mystical state, reserved for monks on mountaintops or sages lost in myth. It is a profound clarity that anyone, including you, can cultivate right here, right now. Enlightenment is the clear seeing of what is, without the fog of illusion, fear, or attachment. And from that clear seeing comes peace, not the fragile peace that depends on circumstances, but an unshakable inner serenity. This is not a journey of escape. It is not about denying pain or pretending that fear does not exist. It is about meeting anxiety face to face, seeing through its illusion, and waking up to a deeper, wiser truth that already exists within you. The following pages contain 7 powerful lessons of enlightenment. Each one is a door to freedom. Each one has the power to loosen the grip of anxiety and open you to a life of fearlessness and peace. These are not abstract ideas, but living truths that you can embody and apply. Let these words be not just information, but transformation. Let them be a mirror for your own awakening. And now we begin with the first lesson, the art of being present. The first lesson, return to the now, where anxiety cannot exist. There is a place where anxiety cannot survive. A sanctuary not in another country, not in another relationship, not in another job, not even in a better version of yourself, but right here, in this moment, as it is. This place is called the now, the present moment, the only place that truly exists. And to the awakened mind, this is the only refuge that cannot be shaken by fear. Anxiety is the byproduct of abandoning the now. It is what arises when the mind projects itself into a future that does not yet exist, weaving stories of what might go wrong, what might be lost, what might never be gained. It is a mental movie playing worst-case scenarios on loop, and the body, unable to distinguish thought from reality, responds with tension, rapid breath, and restlessness. But here's the key: none of that exists in the now. Anxiety is always tied to a time that is not here. When you truly look into this moment, not through thought, but through attention, raw, pure, silent attention, you will notice something astonishing. In this instant, without thought of future or past, there is no problem. There is only breath, sensation, stillness. The mind may scream otherwise, but the present moment remains untouched, neutral, even sacred. In this space, you are not your problems. You are not your past. You are not your fears. You are simply aware. And that awareness is already free. Returning to the now is not a technique. It is a recognition. It is the remembrance that you are never anywhere else but here. Thoughts may wander into 1,000 imagined futures, but you are always now. Your body breathes in the now. Your heart beats in the now. Your senses perceive in the now. And when you bring your full awareness to this moment, not to the idea of the moment, but to the felt experience of now, anxiety dissolves like mist in sunlight. This does not mean that you will never think about the future. Planning is useful. Anticipation is natural. But when thinking becomes compulsive and fear-based, when it pulls you away from the richness of this living moment, then it becomes toxic. The enlightened mind sees this and gently returns to presence. One of the most powerful ways to anchor into the now is through the breath, not by controlling it, but by noticing it. The breath is always here. It does not belong to the future or the past, By simply observing the in and out of your breath without judgment or manipulation, you begin to step out of the thinking mind and into being. This is the gateway to peace. Another path to presence is through the senses. Touch the fabric near you, feel the temperature on your skin, listen to the subtle sounds around you, taste your coffee fully, see the world without naming it. These are not just exercises, they are sacred doorways. Because when you are fully with your senses, you are not in thought, you are here. And here, anxiety loses its power. Some may say, but the present moment is painful, and that can be true. But even pain, when experienced directly, is not the same as the suffering we add through resistance, judgment, and fear. Even in pain, there is peace when you stop fighting it. When you allow what is, without needing it to be different, something incredible happens. The pain may remain, but the suffering begins to fade. Presence does not require perfection, it only requires honesty. Children live in the now effortlessly. Watch a child playing, laughing, or even crying. They are completely immersed. They have not yet learned the habit of abandoning the moment. But as we grow, we are taught to constantly chase something ahead, to worry, to plan, to strive. Enlightenment is a return to that childlike presence, but with the wisdom of experience. Presence is not passive, it is vibrant, awake, alive. When you are present, you are not escaping life, you are fully engaged with it. You listen deeply, you move deliberately, you speak truthfully, you see clearly. And in this clarity, the fog of anxiety cannot take root. It may visit, but it cannot stay, because the light of awareness is too bright for the shadows of fear. This lesson is not about a quick fix, it is about a new way of being, a daily devotion to remembering what is real. Every time anxiety arises, it is an invitation, a gentle reminder to come home to the now, and the more you return, the easier it becomes. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become more anchored, more conscious, more free. Let this be your practice. Return again and again. Not with force, but with love. Not with guilt, but with grace. Let each breath guide you. Let each moment reveal itself. And trust that in the simple act of being here, you are already stepping into peace. If this teaching resonates with you, and you wish to receive more wisdom like this, consider subscribing to the channel. Let us walk this path together, one conscious breath at a time. The second lesson: surrender the illusion of control and embrace the flow of life. One of the greatest sources of anxiety in the human mind is the constant and unconscious attempt to control what cannot be controlled. We try to manage the future, shape outcomes, avoid uncertainties, and direct every aspect of our lives according to mental projections of what we believe should happen. And when life does not follow our imagined plan, as it so often does not, we become anxious, restless, panicked, and consumed by the false belief that something has gone wrong. But what if the real cause of our anxiety is not the events themselves, but our resistance to them? What if the very act of trying to control life is the root of our suffering? This is the second lesson of enlightenment. Surrender the illusion of control. This lesson is not about apathy, nor is it about becoming passive. It is about the radical understanding that life is not something to be micromanaged, but something to be lived. When you truly see that control is an illusion, one that the ego clings to in order to feel secure, you begin to soften, you begin to relax your grip, and in that softening, peace begins to emerge like a still lake under a restless sky. The mind fears surrender because it believes that to surrender is to lose, to fail, to give up. But this is a misunderstanding born of ego. True surrender is not weakness, it is strength. It is not resignation, it is wisdom. It is not about doing nothing. It is about doing what is needed without the inner tension of resistance. When you surrender, you are not giving up your ability to act. You are simply letting go of the need to control outcomes. You are shifting from anxiety to trust, from resistance to flow. The great spiritual traditions have always spoken of surrender. The Taoists speak of Wu Wei, the art of effortless action, of aligning with the natural rhythms of existence rather than fighting them. The Buddhists speak of non-attachment, of letting go of clinging and allowing things to be as they are. Jesus spoke of "Thy will be done," a surrender to the divine intelligence greater than personal desire. These are not religious doctrines. They are truths that can be lived in the depth of your being. Imagine standing in a river. If you try to hold the water, it slips through your fingers. If you try to push against the current, you exhaust yourself. But if you float, if you trust, the river carries you. Life is that river. You are already in it. You can resist it, or you can flow. Anxiety comes from resistance. Peace comes from flow. To live in surrender is to trust that life is unfolding as it needs to. It means understanding that not everything needs to be understood, that you do not need all the answers to feel safe. That uncertainty is not your enemy. It is the space in which miracles are born. Anxiety wants certainty, but life is not a machine, it is a mystery. And the more you open to the mystery, the more the burden of control begins to dissolve. But surrender is not a one-time decision. It is a moment-to-moment practice. The mind will always try to take the reins again. It will whisper fears of what might happen if you don't control everything. It will present endless what-ifs. In those moments, return to your breath. Feel your body. Remember that the need to control is the voice of fear, not the voice of truth. And gently release. Trust. Let go. Some may ask, but if I stop trying to control, won't everything fall apart? The answer is paradoxical. When you let go of control, you actually become more effective. Because you are no longer acting from fear, you are acting from clarity. You are no longer driven by desperation, you are moved by intuition. You are no longer rigid, you are adaptable. Life begins to support you because you are no longer fighting it. Think of all the energy spent worrying about things that never happened, all the sleepless nights imagining scenarios that never came to pass, all the tension in your body from trying to prepare for every possible outcome. None of it brought peace. None of it prevented life from being what it is. Now imagine that same energy redirected toward presence, creativity, compassion, and truth. This is what surrender offers. Letting go does not mean you do not care. It means you care deeply but without attachment. You do your part, but you do not carry the whole world on your shoulders. You love, but you do not try to possess. You dream, but you are not crushed if things unfold differently. You plan, but you remain flexible. You move with the rhythm of life rather than imposing your own. This shift requires humility. It requires acknowledging that we do not know everything, that our perspective is limited, that what seems like a problem today may be a blessing tomorrow, that what looks like failure may be redirecting us to something greater. Surrender means trusting the intelligence of life more than the preferences of the mind. There is a kind of peace that arises when you realize that you are not in charge of the universe, that you do not need to control every detail to be okay, that you can rest, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer at war with what is. This peace is not dependent on circumstances. It comes from alignment with truth. It comes from releasing the burden of control and falling into the arms of life itself. Often, what keeps us from surrendering is fear. Fear of loss, of failure, of rejection, of the unknown. But look deeply into that fear. What is it really? A thought, a story, a projection, not reality. When you shine the light of awareness on fear, it loses its power. And what remains is trust, not blind faith, but a deep inner knowing that you are supported, that life is not your enemy, that you are not alone. To begin living this lesson, start small. Notice where you are trying to control. Notice the tension in your body when things don't go your way. Notice how often your mind resists what is. And in those moments, pause, breathe, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I trying to control? Can I let this go? You may not always be able to, But the awareness itself begins the process. Every time you choose surrender over control, you are breaking the chains of anxiety and stepping into freedom. This path is not about perfection. You will forget, you will resist, you will get caught in fear. But each time you remember, each time you release, you grow stronger. Not stronger in the way the world defines it, not more forceful, not more dominant, but stronger in grace, stronger in trust, stronger in presence. Let your life become a dance with the unknown. Let your steps be guided by something deeper than fear. Let your days be filled not with desperate striving, but with humble surrender. And let the river of life carry you where you need to go, in its own mysterious and beautiful way. You do not need to control it all to be free. You only need to let go of the illusion that you do. If this lesson speaks to your heart, if you feel the deep truth resonating within you, and if you want to receive more insights that support your inner peace, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Together, let us continue this journey toward freedom, one breath, one surrender, one awakening at a time. The third lesson: detach from the ego's narrative and rediscover your true self. Anxiety thrives in the fertile soil of identification. It feeds off the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what should happen, how things must unfold, and what others think of us. At the center of all this mental noise is one common denominator: the ego. The ego is not some evil entity or abstract concept. It is the false self, the constructed image you believe you must protect, enhance, prove, and defend. It is the voice that says you must achieve more to be worthy, that you must be perfect to be accepted, that you must control how others see you to feel secure. And the more you believe that this voice is who you truly are, the more you are imprisoned by anxiety. But enlightenment offers a powerful invitation to step back from this voice, to witness it rather than obey it, and to discover a self that is deeper, freer, and untouched by fear. This is the third lesson: to detach from the ego's narrative and rediscover your true self. The ego is not your enemy. It developed as a survival mechanism, a way to navigate the world and maintain a sense of separation. But it is not the totality of who you are. In fact, the ego is built entirely on thought, on past conditioning, on future projection. It is a bundle of memories, desires, comparisons, and judgments. And because it is unstable and constantly seeking validation, it is always anxious. It fears being judged, being wrong, being rejected, being exposed. It fears change, failure, and death, because all these things threaten its illusion of control. The ego lives in a constant state of unease, and when you are identified with it, so do you. To begin freeing yourself from anxiety, you must become aware of the egoic patterns operating in your mind. You must observe how it attaches itself to roles, identities, and outcomes. You must notice how it constantly compares you to others, how it spins stories of not enoughness, how it clings to past wounds or future fears. Awareness is the first step. Not judgment, but awareness, because the moment you become aware of the ego, you are no longer fully identified with it. There is now a gap, a space between the thinker and the awareness of thinking, and in that space, liberation begins. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your past. You are the one who sees. You are the silent witness behind the mental activity. And this witnessing presence is untouched by anxiety. It is not afraid. It is not incomplete. It is not seeking. It simply is. To rest in this presence even for a moment is to experience a profound shift from fear to peace, from contraction to expansion, from illusion to truth. But the ego does not give up easily. It will resist this shift. It will try to pull you back into identification. It will say, yes, but you have to protect yourself, or you have to prove your worth, or you have to achieve this or avoid that. And that's okay. You don't have to fight the ego. You simply have to see through it, Like a dream upon waking, once seen as illusion, its grip naturally loosens. The power of the ego lies in unconsciousness. Your power lies in awareness. One of the ego's strongest attachments is to identity. We believe we are our name, our body, our profession, our social role, our history. But these are all labels, useful for functioning in the world, but not who we are in essence. When we attach to these identities, we create walls, and inside those walls, fear grows. We fear the loss of identity. We fear being nobody. But the great paradox is this: only when you stop being somebody in the egoic sense can you discover your true self, spacious, open, connected to all. Think of the sky. The sky does not cling to the clouds that pass through it. It allows them. It holds space for them, but it remains untouched. You are that sky. Your thoughts, emotions, and stories are the clouds. They may appear intense or overwhelming, but they are not you. And when you realize this, you no longer have to resist them or be ruled by them. You simply allow them to come and go, knowing your true nature is vast and unchanging. This realization is not a philosophical belief. It is a direct experience, and it can happen at any moment. Right now, as you read these words, you can pause and notice the awareness that is reading. Not the voice in your head commenting on the text, but the pure presence behind it. That awareness is you. It was there before the anxiety. It is there beneath the anxiety, and it will remain after the anxiety dissolves. When you return to this presence again and again, you begin to live from it. And the more you live from awareness, the less you are caught in the ego's drama. The ego is always trying to fix things, your image, your relationships, your future. But the true self is not trying to fix. It is simply being. And in that being, anxiety loses its footing. Because anxiety needs a story to survive. It needs a sense of separate self that is under threat. When you drop the story, even briefly, what remains is peace. You do not have to renounce the world or deny your personality. You simply have to know that it is not who you are. You can still play the roles of life, parent, partner, friend, creator, but without clinging to them as your identity. You can still feel emotions, but without believing they define you. You can still have thoughts, but without mistaking them for truth. This is what it means to live from your true self. This shift also changes how you relate to others. The ego sees others as threats, competitors, or tools for validation, but the true self sees unity. It sees beyond masks. It recognizes the same awareness in every being, and from this recognition arises compassion, not as a duty, but as a natural expression of your being. When you meet anxiety now, you do not try to suppress it or run from it. You look at it, you say, "I see you." You recognize it as a program of the ego. You feel it fully in the body without the story. You breathe, you stay, and you ask, who is the one feeling this? Not to analyze, but to see. And you realize, this anxiety is happening within me, but it is not me. Just like a cloud in the sky, it passes. You remain. This is the path of spiritual maturity, not the elimination of all fear, but the deepening into presence so that fear no longer controls you. The ego may rise again, but you no longer serve it blindly. You recognize its voice, but you do not obey. You walk with clarity. You speak with honesty. You act from love, not fear. And life, once a battlefield of the anxious mind, becomes a playground of presence. Even the moments of forgetting are part of the path. You will get caught in identification. You will fall into the old stories, but each time you remember, each time you come back to the now, each time you rest as awareness, you strengthen your foundation in truth. And over time, anxiety becomes a whisper rather than a roar. It may still arise, but it no longer owns you. This journey is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you have always been, beneath the noise. It is about seeing clearly, living simply, and loving deeply, not from fear, but from the vast stillness of your being. So the next time anxiety comes knocking, pause, breathe, step back, see the ego's story for what it is, a passing cloud, a temporary narrative, and then return to the silence behind the thoughts, return to the awareness watching, return to yourself. And if this lesson resonates with your soul, if you feel called to continue walking this path of awakening, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Let us keep uncovering the light within, and together dissolve the illusions that keep us from peace. The fourth lesson: accept what is and end the war. Within anxiety does not arise merely because of what happens. It arises because of our resistance to what happens. It is not life itself that disturbs our peace. It is our refusal to accept life as it is. The mind has a very specific image of how things should be, and whenever reality does not match that image, it rebels, it complains, it fears, it resists. And in that resistance, suffering is born. The fourth lesson of enlightenment, therefore, is not to change reality, but to deeply accept it. This is not resignation. This is not giving up. This is the highest form of intelligence, seeing what is and no longer arguing with it. Acceptance is one of the most misunderstood spiritual teachings. To the ego, acceptance sounds like weakness. It sounds like surrendering to injustice or tolerating pain. But acceptance is not passive. It is active awareness. It is the courage to stop running, stop fighting, stop judging, and simply face what is real in this moment. It is the wisdom to understand that peace does not come from controlling life, but from making peace with life. When you accept, you stop adding mental resistance to your experience. You no longer say, "This should not be happening," or "This is wrong." You simply see, feel, and allow. You remain open, and in that openness something miraculous happens. The pain may still be there, but the suffering begins to dissolve. Because suffering is not the pain itself, it is the thought that the pain should not exist. When you accept what is, you remove the second arrow. You stop hurting yourself with resistance. Anxiety is often the result of trying to escape the present moment. The mind says, "This feeling is uncomfortable. I must get rid of it. I must figure it out. I must analyze it until it goes away." But this only adds more fear, more tension, more entanglement. The path of enlightenment is the opposite. It is the still, quiet choice to feel what is without resistance. To say, "This is what is here right now. Let me meet it." And in that meeting, the energy of anxiety begins to shift. This does not mean that you enjoy every feeling. It means that you allow it, that you hold space for it, that you no longer reject yourself for feeling anxious, sad, uncertain, or afraid. The moment you stop resisting your experience, you create space. And in that space, the emotion is free to move, to breathe, to transform. You are no longer its prisoner, you are its witness. Acceptance is not limited to emotions. It also applies to situations, relationships, outcomes. How often do we suffer because reality is not matching our mental script? We think a certain person should act differently. We think a certain plan should have succeeded. We think life should be fair according to our definition. And when life does not cooperate, we panic. But life is under no obligation to match our expectations. Life moves as it moves, and our peace lies not in controlling it, but in flowing with it. This does not mean that you stop taking action. Acceptance does not mean inaction. It means that your action comes from a place of clarity, not reactivity, from alignment, not resistance. When you accept what is, you are no longer acting from fear. You are acting from presence. You are no longer trying to fix reality. You are responding to it with wisdom. Think of a storm. You cannot stop the rain by shouting at the clouds. You cannot control the wind by tightening your fists. But you can take shelter. You can light a candle. You can wait in peace. And you can watch as the storm passes. Life is like this. There will be joy and sorrow, gain and loss, praise and blame. If you resist these waves, you will drown. But if you accept them, if you ride them, if you flow with them, you remain free. There is a deep paradox in acceptance. The more you accept what is, the more things begin to change. Not because you force them, but because you are no longer resisting the flow of life. You are no longer pouring your energy into fighting reality. Instead, you are aligned with it. And from this alignment, true transformation can arise. Not from fear, but from love. Acceptance also means accepting yourself, not the ideal version you are trying to become, but who you are right now. This includes your flaws, your fears, your limitations. Most anxiety comes from the inner war we wage against ourselves. The voice that says, "I'm not good enough, I should be different, I need to change before I can be at peace." But peace is not a reward for perfection. It is the natural result of embracing your humanness. When you stop judging yourself for being anxious, anxious thoughts begin to lose their power. When you stop believing that you must be fearless to be free, fear itself becomes lighter. The path to peace is not becoming someone else. It is embracing yourself so fully that the need to escape disappears. It is seeing your own heart and saying, "Even this is okay." Practice sitting with yourself in silence, without trying to change anything. Notice what arises. It may be restlessness, fear, boredom, or sadness. Do not analyze it, do not resist it. Just watch it, breathe with it, hold space for it. This is what it means to accept. This is what it means to end the war within. The moment you stop resisting the present moment, a doorway opens. And what you discover is that peace was never absent. It was simply covered by the noise of resistance. You do not have to become someone else to find peace. You simply have to stop rejecting what already is. This does not mean you give up your dreams or your goals. It means you pursue them from a place of inner peace, not inner war. You act not to escape discomfort, but to express your truth. You move not from desperation, but from inspiration. And even when challenges arise, you remain rooted in acceptance. This path is not always easy. The habit of resistance is deeply ingrained. The mind will try to convince you that something is wrong, that you must fix it immediately, that you must get away from this moment. But remember, the only way out is in. The only real freedom is found when you meet life exactly as it is. And when you do, when you stop fighting and start allowing, something remarkable happens. You begin to see beauty where you once saw only problems. You begin to find stillness even in chaos. You begin to trust life, not because it is always pleasant, but because you are no longer demanding that it be otherwise. Let this lesson become your inner compass. Whatever arises, accept it. Whatever you feel, allow it. Whatever is here, meet it with openness. Not because you have given up, but because you have woken up. You have seen the truth, that peace does not come from changing everything outside, but from saying yes to what is already here. And if this truth resonates in your heart, if it brings even a moment of stillness, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Together, we can continue this journey into the heart of presence, where anxiety dissolves and true freedom begins. The fifth lesson: trust the intelligence of life and awaken to the bigger picture. There comes a moment on the path of awakening when you begin to see that nothing in your life has been random. That even the darkest nights, the most painful heartbreaks, the unexpected detours, and the seasons of confusion were all shaping you, preparing you, revealing to you something that you could not yet understand. And as this vision expands, something extraordinary begins to happen. Trust arises, not as a belief, but as a deep inner knowing. This is the fifth lesson of enlightenment, and perhaps the most transformative of all. Trust the intelligence of life. Because in this trust, anxiety loses its very foundation. In this trust, you begin to awaken to a reality so vast, so intricately woven, that fear no longer makes sense. You begin to understand that you are not alone in chaos, but guided through it. Anxiety is born when we lose perspective, when we shrink the frame of our understanding to this moment's discomfort, this challenge, this fear. The mind zooms in so tightly that all we can see is the problem. We forget that we are in a much larger story, that what feels like a dead end may be a turning point, that what seems like a loss may be a clearing for something new. The mind wants answers now, but life unfolds in time, and sometimes the wisdom of an experience is not visible until years later. Trust is what carries you through that space in between. To trust life is to understand that there is a deeper intelligence at work, not outside of you, but within you and all around you. Call it life, the universe, God, Tao, Source, names do not matter. What matters is the felt recognition that there is an order beneath the surface chaos, a rhythm beneath the noise. When you begin to attune to this rhythm, when you begin to listen, not with your ears but with your being, you start to notice the signs, the synchronicities, the unseen hands that guide, the doors that close to protect you, the delays that save you from harm, the redirections that lead you to purpose. And this realization softens the grip of control. It dissolves the panic of not knowing. It opens the heart to wonder. Trust does not mean that everything will be easy. It means that everything has meaning, that even your suffering is not wasted, that even your doubts are part of the unfolding. This does not make pain disappear, but it gives it context. It allows you to suffer consciously, to walk through fire with your eyes open, to face the storm with a deeper strength. You are no longer asking, "Why is this happening to me?" but instead, "What is life trying to teach me through this?" You shift from victimhood to participation, from fear to openness. Many people speak of faith, but true trust is beyond belief. It is experiential. It arises when you begin to notice the patterns in your own life, the way certain people came into your path at just the right time, the way some rejections turned out to be blessings, the way even your mistakes became part of your growth. When you begin to see these things, not as coincidences, but as expressions of intelligence, trust becomes your natural state. It is no longer forced. It simply is. This trust also transforms your relationship with time. Anxiety thrives on urgency. It whispers that you must fix everything now, that you are behind, that if things do not change immediately, you will fall apart. But trust is patient. Trust understands that timing is part of wisdom, that things unfold not when you want them to, but when you are ready. Trust allows you to breathe, to slow down, to walk instead of run, to rest in the unknown, knowing that clarity will come when it is meant to. And in that rest, anxiety begins to fade. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate this trust is to spend time in silence. Not silence as the absence of sound, but silence as the space where your deeper knowing speaks. In silence, the noise of the mind begins to settle, and something more subtle begins to arise. A quiet whisper, a sense of guidance, a feeling of being held. This is not imagination. It is reality without the filter of fear. It is your own soul reminding you of what you already know, that you are not here by accident, that your life is not a mistake, and that something sacred is unfolding even now. Another way to deepen this trust is through reflection. Look back at your life and see the larger arcs. What seemed like devastation may have led to liberation. What felt like confusion may have created space for revelation. The things you once prayed would happen but didn't may have saved you in ways you could not have foreseen. Write these things down. Let them become your evidence. Let them be the foundation upon which your trust rests. Not blind, but rooted in experience. Trust also asks us to embrace uncertainty, to stop demanding that everything be explained, to let go of the need to control every step. This is terrifying for the ego, which finds safety in planning, in predicting, in knowing. But true safety is not found in certainty. It is found in presence, in the willingness to be with what is, even when it does not make sense, even when it hurts, even when the path ahead is hidden. Because when you trust life, you realize that you are never really walking alone. You begin to feel that life is not something happening to you, but through you, that you are part of its intelligence, that your intuition is not separate from divine guidance, that your desires, when deeply felt and free from ego, are signposts pointing you home. And so you listen more closely, you pay attention to the nudges, to the longings, to the things that keep calling you. You no longer dismiss your inner voice as fantasy. You begin to trust that your soul knows the way. This trust also allows you to let go of comparison. Anxiety often arises when we measure ourselves against others, when we believe that someone else's path is more successful, more beautiful, more worthy. But when you trust your own journey, you no longer need to compare. You understand that each soul has its own curriculum, that your timeline is sacred, that you are not late, you are right on time for your own evolution, and in that knowing, jealousy fades, insecurity fades, and what remains is gratitude for your unique unfolding, for your personal truth. When you live with this kind of trust, something softens in your face, something relaxes in your chest. You are no longer scanning the horizon for danger. You are no longer holding your breath. You begin to walk with a quiet confidence, not because you know what will happen, but because you trust that whatever happens will serve your growth. You carry yourself differently. You speak more truthfully. You listen more deeply. And you attract people, situations, and experiences that resonate with this peace. This is not to say that you never feel fear again. Fear may still visit. Doubt may still knock. But they no longer rule you, because there is a deeper trust beneath them, a trust that says, even this will pass, even this has purpose. And so you welcome the fear as a teacher, you bow to the doubt as a messenger, and then you return again and again to the still place within, to the knowing that cannot be shaken. This trust also brings you into alignment with your true power, because when you are no longer trying to manipulate life, your energy becomes available for creativity, for presence, for love. You are no longer drained by worry. You are no longer paralyzed by indecision. You are available to this moment, and in this moment, you are powerful. You can respond instead of react. You can create instead of cling. You can love instead of fear. Trusting life does not mean that you never act. It means that your action is rooted in alignment, not anxiety. That you listen before you move. That you feel before you speak. That you allow before you push. It means that you live in dialogue with the mystery, not in opposition to it. That you let life lead and you follow, not passively, but consciously, with eyes open, with heart open. And the more you trust, the more life seems to trust you. Doors open, support arrives, synchronicities increase. You find yourself in the right place at the right time, saying the right words, meeting the right people, not because you planned it, but because you aligned with it, because you said yes to life, and life said yes to you. This is not magic. This is how reality works when you are no longer resisting it. When you are no longer acting from fear, when you are no longer trying to control what was never yours to control. Life is not against you. It never was. But when you feared it, it appeared hostile. When you distrusted it, it felt unsafe. Now that you trust it, it reveals its beauty, its grace, its perfection. You begin to live in a state of openness, of receptivity, of wonder. You no longer demand that life explain itself. You no longer rush to escape discomfort. You stay, you listen, you learn, and you grow. Not by force, but by flow. Not by fear, but by trust. This lesson is not something to be understood intellectually. It must be lived, practiced, returned to again and again. Every time you feel anxiety, pause. Ask yourself, what am I not trusting right now? What fear am I believing? Can I let go, even a little? And then breathe. Relax your shoulders. Feel the ground beneath you. And remember, life has carried you this far. It will carry you still. If these words awaken something within you, if you feel the soft pull toward a life of deeper trust, then I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Let us continue walking together through this beautiful mystery where every moment is an invitation to awaken and every breath is a chance to return to peace.